Get started. Welcome, everyone. This briefing is in public, just to clarify, and it is the paper will be part of the Finance and Planning Committee meeting next week. So an early heads up, but also it's important because I think for a number of people it's the first time they've seen a quarterly performance report in depth. So the team are going to take us through about how it's structured, what's in it, and then what do we do with the information that we've got. You've all had the slides for the briefing, so the team are going to sort of whip through those relatively quickly, just highlight the key important parts so that there's plenty of time for questions. So thank you. So I will hand it over now to Baz.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I think Diane's kind of covered off the agenda bit. We've kind of got three parts to it, and we're only going to take about 10 minutes, so there'll be plenty of time for questions, but we'll talk through how the quarterly report is put together. We'll talk a little bit at a high level in terms of the results for quarter one, and then Jeffrey Coe's going to talk reporting as well. So just in terms of it, if you look at our performance framework, there's really there's four parts to it, but three parts come to you. So you've got the vision up the top, then you've got outcomes, impacts, and LTP service delivery. So the outcomes are city outcomes. We measure trends in that space. We don't have targets in that space because we're not the only ones necessarily contributing towards those. Impacts are geared towards our priority areas that you set through the LTP, and then LTP service delivery are our KPIs that track our services, whether it's libraries, whether it's waste, whether it's sports fields, and there's quite a number of those. The other thing that we track is our city level strategies. So there's a bunch of strategies that have been signed up to over the last few years. Elected members are interested to see how we're tracking in terms of delivering towards those, in terms of their action plans, and so we report against those on a quarterly basis as well, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. There is an operational layer that sits below that, but that doesn't necessarily go to governance. That's at a very granular level. So it's only the top three parts that comes here, and it's only the top three parts that is a focus for our external auditors as well. So the key thing and takeout here is, I'm not going to read every single word on the slide, but the two key takeouts is that what we do is we show you year-to-date performance, and we also use the quarterly report for budgetary changes. So normally budgets are set through the annual plan process, and occasionally from time to time there are some need for changes, and we use the quarterly report for that as well. Another important thing to note in terms of our quarterly report, the way we do them, and this was a change we made quite a few years ago, is that we do exceptions reporting, particularly when it comes to KPIs. So there's a whole lot of KPIs that'll be doing well, and if they're doing well, they're not going to really be a focus in the quarterly report. We're really looking at those ones that are not meeting target or that are off target. That's kind of where the focus is. The other thing worth noting is that last year, I think it was last year, we signed up to an improvement program for the quarterly report. So there was a range of councillors that wanted to see some improvements. And so we met with all of those over a number of different meetings. And as a consequence, we've got an improvement program associated with the quarterly report. We couldn't do it all in one go, but the program will be rolled out over a period of time. We now have new councillors that may have some suggestions as well, and over time, if you find you have some that you want to make to us, please reach out to us, because obviously this report is important to you and we want to make sure that it's useful for you as well. The report format, if you've read it, in essence we provide a bit of a snapshot up front. Then there is a summary of our finances that takes us through our financial position, treasury and rates and debt balances. The next big part is actually our performance by strategic activity area. So if you look through any annual plan, any LTP, any quarterly report, or any annual plan, they're always kind of broken into 7 chapters. You kind of got governance, you've got environment and infrastructure, you've got economic well-being, you've got cultural well-being, you've got social and recreation, you've got urban development, and you've got transport. And those are the key chapters that we do our planning and reporting through. In essence, they relate to our service areas, they relate to our KPIs, they relate to our budgets. Underneath that, there is a range of appendices as well as financial information and information on strategies. The other thing worth understanding is that we have a lot of KPIs. We have 118, but they don't all report every quarter. They report in different sequences, and that's just a consequence of the KPIs. So, for instance, some of our KPIs are perception measures, so they're measured on an annual basis through a survey. In other instances, we'll be capturing data on a more ongoing basis, resource consents or building consents, and so not everything is reported on a quarterly basis, but everything does wrap up at the end of the year in terms of the annual report. So this is just a quick table to show how we measure performance thresholds for our KPIs. So our threshold is 5%. It means that performance at or above 5% away from the target is deemed not to be met. So basically anything at target or better is met. If you're within 2.5%, it's substantially met. If you're 2.5% to 5% away from target, you're off track. And of course, if you're not within the 5% threshold, you're not met. So those are the thresholds that we use in terms of our KPIs. They used to be different. They used to be bigger, but we've narrowed it down to those as part of the latest LTP process. Another thing that we do is we don't just have the KPIs by different strategic areas. We kind of group them in different ways as well. These are called service dimensions. They actually were produced by Tai Tuara, and they're used by a lot of councils. And so we can track things like all the measures that relate to affordability, or all the measures that relate to safety or reliability or responsiveness. And so we get a lens on our KPIs using those service dimensions as well. So that can be quite useful as part of the reporting process. And like I said before, we measure and report on the performance of our key strategies. The ones that are listed on the board in front of you are the ones that we're currently tracking. We report against all of them at a high level, but we do a deep dive on one per quarter. So we do go through each one in a level of detail, but otherwise it's more at a high level. And so you can see that some of them have got when they're reporting in detail next to them. And they may change over time. So as new strategies are developed or as old strategies are retired, those things will change. So this is meeting the needs of the governance table. So if there is a need to track something different, then we need to know, and we will do so. That is 101 at a very, very clipped pace in terms of how we do quarterly reporting. I'm sure there'll be questions on it. There'll be time for it today, and of course we're happy to meet, particularly with new councillors, just one-on-one or in small groups to go through things in more detail. So we want to be helpful to you. But at this stage, I'm actually going to hand this over to Raina, who's going to start talking us through the budget results.
Kia ora koutou. So obviously we are talking about quarter one, which is a year to date. So July, August, September, the first 3 months. So they are a bit old now. I won't spend too much time on the details, but essentially for the year to date, we're reporting a $29 million surplus, which is about $22 million ahead of budget. Now, the main driver for that is really just a timing issue. We reforecast quarterly, so we'll be updating that as part of the Q2 report to better reflect the timing issues that we're seeing through this report. Year-to-date capital expenditure is $137 million, which is about $56 million below the budget, or at 71%. Net debt increased to $1.65 billion, and our credit rating was reaffirmed, although still on a negative outlook. Happy to take questions on this, but I will go through it quite quickly. As part of this quarterly report, like Bears said, we also use this as a way to bring decisions to you relating to the current year's budgets. We reforecast every quarter, and as part of that, in any financial year, before the year end is completed, we bring budget changes to you to request to carry forward budgets into the future year. And that is to ensure that we have the budget in the next year to continue to complete these projects. Now, we do that before the year is ended so that we don't come back to you once we've adopted an annual plan budget and ask for further changes only a few months after you've adopted it. So what you'll see through this report is essentially a very small wash-up of some of those budgets or those projects that we need to bring budget forward or bring it back and move it around so that to ensure we've got the delegation to complete the projects. So these carry forwards and carry backs are not an increase in budget, just a reshuffling through the years. There are some other budget changes through the Q1 report that we're requesting. One of them is around the digitisation of our archives. Now, in 24-25, we recognised, and previous years actually, we recognised that as a capital project, meaning it's funded via debt. As part of the audit, Audit New Zealand advised that needed to be changed to operational expenditure. We had previous advice that it was capital, but it was very late in the process, so we were unable to push back on that. Hence, we've had to update our reporting to reflect that. So this decision, in essence, is just a request of moving that from capital expenditure to operating expenditure. Now, we've requested that that be debt funded because, in essence, the expenditure is capital in nature, not operating in nature, and therefore we're requesting it's debt funded. We're also requesting some other budget changes for Wellington Zoo, where they are covering the cost of that, so it's a net nil impact, and also requesting moving some budgets between some activities. I won't go through this slide, but there's more detail in here around the quarterly results. This slide here also runs through at a more detailed level around some of those projects and how we are tracking year to date. I won't go into detail on that one either. I think that's back to you now, Bears.
Yeah, thank you. So just as a quick overview in terms of non-financial performance, just remember that we're tracking on an exceptions basis, so we're not showing the full cohort of KPIs here. We're just showing the ones that are off track or not being met. So at a big picture level, we're sitting at 69%. And that is a little bit down on 76%, which was Q4 from last year. And we've seen some improvement in terms of the water results as well. So just in terms of, I mean, it's kind of hard for me to know how much detail you want me to go through. There is a lot more, obviously, in the actual report and the quarterly report itself. But for instance, things where we're down is parking enforcement requests. So these are the areas where someone's parked on a footpath or someone's blocked a driveway. Diversion quantity, so this is the amount of waste that is diverted, and as the councillors who have been here for a long period of time will know, that there is a certain requirement in our landfill to mix waste with the sewage sludge, and there's a ratio, and so that's one of the reasons why that is not being met. We've still got a contamination rate issue in terms of the recycling that's being picked up as well. Libraries' cost to serve is a little bit down, and that's simply, I think, a temporary thing that relates to the fact that we're putting a lot more books back into the central library, and so to access a book, sometimes it's not going to be available in a suburban library, so there is a few more steps to take, and that just has an impact on that particular KPI. Resource consent is slightly down as well. These are the Wellington Water ones, so these are the call-out, a number of the KPIs, and Wellington Water has quite a few KPIs, as you can well imagine, and some of those are a little bit down at this point in time. CCOs, Basin Reserve, they're down on events at this point in time in terms of the quarter, but we are moving into the summer season, and Reader is a little bit down on some of their KPIs at this stage of the year as well. So there's a lot more detail in the actual report and the quarterly report as well. So have a read through those. There will be opportunity to ask questions today. There'll be an opportunity to ask questions online ahead of the meeting, and then of course at the actual meeting there'll be a third opportunity to ask questions as well. But I'll probably leave it at that and hand over to Jeffrey, who will take us quickly through significant projects.
Did you want me to talk through significant projects now? Pause for questions on quarterly, or? Yep.
City strategy meeting this week, yeah.
Okay. So kia ora all, I'm Jeffrey Coe. I'm the manager of the PMO project office here at Council, for those who haven't met me. So this is a slightly different part from the quarterly report. So the significant projects quarterly report is going to the City Strategy and Delivery Committee on this Thursday. So it's a separate report, but we thought we'd take the opportunity to brief you on both of them at the same time, given they're quite related. So in terms of significant project reporting, so this report is the first where we have pulled it out as a standalone report for committee. In the past, the significant project reporting has been an embedded part of the quarterly report. It's been an appendix within that. So we are wanting to lift the quality of committee oversight of significant projects. We've got to focus on that and want to improve what we're doing. So this is one part of that, is that pulling it out as a significant standalone report is giving you that vehicle to look into significant projects and ask some question and some dedicated space for doing that. I anticipate that this report is the start of that reporting improvement journey. So as the CStrat committee establishes its role in project oversight, and as we build maturity around some of our project practices, we'll see the nature of this reporting change and evolve and improve in response to your feedback and your needs. So I guess the point on this slide I just wanted to make is what your elected members' interactions with significant projects will be. Like I said, we're trying to improve the experience of elected members with significant projects and how you interact and how we oversee them. This report is one part of that, but it's part of a wider set of changes. So sort of try to summarise there, there's 4 key points, I think, around how that interaction will be set. So this significant projects report is one part of that. So it's the regular and reliable view of projects, and its purpose is to ensure that there's some regular 4 times a year contact with projects to enable you to ask questions or to request further information. So the point of this report is just to see the status of those projects, give you a window on those projects, and enable you to ask those questions. It's not intended to be a comprehensive briefing or summary of those projects. It's a chance for you to engage with them and understand where they're at. The second part of that, which is linked to that, is around we're planning to make sure that at least once a year you get a detailed briefing on each of the significant projects that we have running. There's some projects and programs where that's already in place. Our Tanako program has a regular, I think 4 times a year briefing with you as elected members around how that's at. What we're going to work to do is to make sure that we're covering over the course of a calendar year every one of our significant projects, and you're getting a chance to get under the hood and really understand what's going on with that project. I think the key point with those two things around reporting is that there you're reporting. Outside of the reporting, you'll also project risks and issues will come to committee as and when required. So we're not going to wait for the regular reporting rounds to raise issues and risks around our significant projects, where elected members need to be aware of those or where they need to exercise decision making on those projects. And so the example there is around our Golden Mile or our sludge projects. We will bring reports and decision making to you at the point when that's required. This is the point of this reporting is not for the decision making, it's about reporting and visibility. And then finally, the first one on there is around approval of business cases. So the other key change that has been made through the establishment of the terms of references for committees is around explicit. It's explicit in your terms of reference that committees of the whole will approve significant project business cases. And that was not explicit in the previous triennium. It is now, and so all significant projects business cases will be going to the relevant committee of the whole for approval. So those are that's sort of the overall frame for how significant projects interact with you. This slide is providing just an overview of what's in the report that'll be up on Thursday. So I'll just speak quickly to what significant projects are. So significant projects are, we have a classification system for projects within council. We classify each of our projects based on the level of effort and the level of risk that a project entails. So that's around what the dollars are, but also the nature of the stakeholders that are involved, the level of community interest, the complexity of the project. Significant projects, which are the subject to reporting here, are the most complex and high-risk projects that we have. And so that's really around those are the projects that we direct the highest level of investment and management controls to, and practically what that means is that our most significant projects have higher levels of thoroughness, I suppose, in the business casing that we expect to see of them, around the assurance activities we expect to see against the projects, and they also have the higher level of visibility. So significant projects are reported to our executive team on a monthly basis and also through this reporting to you all as well. The report itself is prepared by our project managers and reviewed and approved by senior responsible officers. The intent of what we have in there, that's terribly small to read, isn't it? The intent of what we have in there is it's providing you the essential salient information that you should need from a senior responsible officer's perspective around the status of the project. So there's four elements to it. So we have the RAG status, which is the red, amber, green. We try and provide, that's to provide you with that high level understanding around which are the projects which are potentially of most interest. Green projects are on track to deliver within their project parameters. Amber projects have their successful delivery is threatened. The project parameters are threatened, and so management actions required to bring them back under control. But it's foreseeing that they will be able to be pulled under control. Red projects are projects where successful project delivery seems unfeasible within the current project parameters, and further decision making or action to change scope or those sorts of things are required. So that should give you the headline. We also have the overall commentary, which should provide the salient information that SRO wants to make you aware of in terms of where the project's at and its status. I have the financial forecasts. The financial forecasts we have there are the whole of project financial forecasts. So many of our projects cross multiple financial years. We provide whole of project forecasts because it helps you understand the overall position. We can also provide financial year information, but we focus on whole of project at the moment. You also have the key risks and issues, which should reflect the key risks and issues that project governance are managing at the moment, but are pulled together and summarised for the purposes of communicating to you. And we have the key upcoming milestones, so that should help to understand what are the key points of interaction with elected members, with the community for these projects that are coming up over the next, I think it may be 6 months or maybe 12 months. Yeah, so that's the significant projects reporting.
Okay.
I think that's questions.
At the end of this is. That's at the end of the presentation?
That's right.
Yep, okay. And we've got Councillor Young, Councillor Abdurrahman, Councillor Randall. Did I see Deputy Mayor put their hand up? No. And Afnan, yeah. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, Councillor Young.
A bit to down in the weeds for you. If so, tell me and I will pursue other avenues. But just going back to lots of slides for when you're talking about the parking revenue, we reported something or others. I can't remember what the slide said. It's there, parking enforcement requests. So one of the issues, I live in an area which has a residence parking, and council no longer issues residence parking coupons. So it used to be that people could walk past and think, oh, those people haven't got a parking, but now they can't do it because they say, well, the wardens can do it on their iPhones. But actually, part of the reasons, the income will drop is that you've got locals who are looking after their own neighbourhood, but they can't access the information because it's all done electronically.
You're quite right. I'm not going to be able to answer that question. But James is here and he might be able to. So there you go.
Through you, Chair, can I ask you a question back? What do they do with that information? Do they send it through and affix it, or how do they inform us? They can still do that. Oh, they can't because they can't see it. Correct. So, yes, you are reliant on us using the electronic system to determine whether or not
feel disempowered.
Okay, I'm happy to have a look at the records and see how many fix-its we got or contacts we got from the public for those things, and then I can come back and give you a more informed.
I look forward to it, James.
Councillor Abdirahman.
Could you just give us a bit of understanding what you mean when you say significant project? How do you define? Is that easy to significant project? This is medium, and how do you define those things?
Yes. So hold on, on page 35 of your agenda for the City Strategy and Delivery Committee, there's a brief summary of project classification in terms of the matrix and how it operates. So you might be able to look at that. But broadly, like I said, there's two dimensions we look at. We look at effort and risk. So effort covers 5 dimensions, which is around the project cost, the project duration, the level of dependencies with other projects, the level of resource involved, and the level of city impact of the project. The risk relates to 4 dimensions around the level of change involved in the project, its complexity, its urgency, and the volume of stakeholders involved and the level of stakeholder interest. So we classify based on 1 to 4 for each of those, and then it pops out an overall classification of minor, moderate, or significant. What I would say is that it's a classification tool. It's a similar classification tool you'll see in any organisation around how you. It's around assigning the appropriate level of management controls and the appropriate level of investment disciplines to the different types of projects that you have operating. I would say it's a starting point. It's a tool and it's a guidance around which projects should be classified where. Alongside that, an SRO may want to exercise some, when their line calls, push something to significant or make it appropriate. So, for example, the examples there around Kandala Pool or Begonia House, I think straight through the tool they were classified as moderate projects, but given the high level of community interest and stakeholder engagement, James made the call as an SRO to say these are more appropriate to be at a significant level and reported, and therefore included within the reporting for the executive and elected members. So it's a guidance, but there's decisions within that. Yeah. Does that help?
Definitely. I have read through the paper, and my question was the follow-up. This is because you mentioned Kandala Pool and Botanic Garden. And when it comes to the skate park in Kilbirnie, one would assume that it would be that category of Kandala Pool as well. But as you said, if that is because of the community interests, and that might change the whole thing. So, James, do you want to say anything on that?
Through you, Madam Chair. So, amazingly, I literally written on my notepad, talk to Councillor Abdirahman about Kilbirnie Skate Park and Granada North and whether they should be significant projects.
Okay. My other question was. This might be for some of us, and including some of the new councillors as well. When you just approve projects and classify already significant, and you have mentioned how do you go, and it's not really related to the significant project itself, but from the time you approve it, let's say we want to build something amazing on the sky, let's say. And then from that time, the idea until you deliver, what the process looks like and what stage the councillor's involvement would be. Example, the business cases where councillors approve and where wouldn't be councillors' involvement in that process as well.
Certainly. Council has an investment delivery framework. So this is the project life cycle that we work projects and investments through. It's on page 34 of the agenda for the CSTRAT committee. It has 5 stages around conceiving a project, developing it, planning it, delivering it, and closing it. The key point of engagement for our elected members is at the stage gate boundary between develop and plan, and that's the business case decision point. So that's the key point currently that we have for elected members to be involved in the decision process around projects. Throughout deliver, though, obviously there's reporting and also management of change with outside of business case parameters. Earlier stages, stage gates between conceive and develop, where it involves a project brief. That's something that is done by management, by the SRO, in terms of approving this project to proceed. Effectively, what the investment delivery framework is a stage release project. It's a stage gate exercise, so it's around progressively understanding the project and agreeing to move to the next stage. So those early decision points around the end of the conceive stages, understanding, is this a problem that warrants further investigation through the development of a business case for City Council decision making. The nature of staged approval projects means that at each point in the stage, we'll be re-looking at whether the project should proceed to the next, and part of that would be looking at the classification. Is the classification still accurate and representative of the complexity or the nature of the project, and revalidating that. And if it changes as you get through, so for example, as you get through more detailed planning of a moderate project and realise it's actually significant, then it would drop into the significant project reporting to be made visible to elected members. Does that help?
Yes, one more, and Councillor. So I just want to check with Andrea now, and taking an example of the Dixon Street last triennium. Near the end of the triennium, you brought back that report to us before you go out for consultation, and is that kind of, which I really appreciate, and is that kind of now the normalized way in going forward? And if that is so, it's something that I appreciate. If not, how can we just get into that level of having a bit of understanding, even after we approve, coming back and sense checking and some of those things?
I'm not sure I recall which decision that was actually, Councillor.
Wasn't a decision, the briefing that we had for the Dixon Street?
I don't know if I was involved in that. I think that was Liam. And
yeah, probably.
Yeah, so I can't speak for that, but I think the general gist of what Jeffrey is saying is actually we're bringing a lot more discipline around our interaction with you as elected members. And so, you know, yes, there'll be those stage gate processes, but also, as we've demonstrated with other briefings. So if I turn my mind to sludge or HUP 2, we've then confirmed with you what is the regular reporting and rhythm that we'll be bringing updates to you and the level of reporting that you want. So we're getting that agreement at the business case stage, or, you know, for older projects at another point in time, so that we understand what your needs are, and then we build that into the forward program as well. And so that's definitely something that we want to be doing on a more regular basis.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Randall.
Thank you. In terms of the template for the project reporting, I was wondering whether you could share with elected members a greater explanation of what each of these fields are, you know, what the definitions are, because there's a lot of summary information in there. So just as an example, what does it mean to say that the cost is amber? Does that mean that the project is using up its contingency funding? Does it mean it's used up all of its contingency funding, or half of it? When does it go red? You know, so just, I mean, I assume that all the project managers have some form of detailed guidance as to how they're to create this template. And so I was just wondering if you could share that guidance with elected members.
Certainly we can share that, the guidance. Maybe we can include that as part of Q&A. So each of I think there's probably around 10 dimensions of status that we collect from project managers, and yes, there's some guidance around what constitutes red, amber, green for cost, resource schedule. So we'll get that to you through Q&As. I think essentially though, what it's saying is that an amber status on one of those dimensions is that there's active project governance, decision-making or activity happening against that. It's like I said, the overall project statuses are respect to, is the project feasible within the parameters set? And amber essentially means there's some risk to that and some management or project governance action or activity or decision-making is underway to deal with that. Amber means that it's foreseeable that it will get back on track. Red means it isn't. And that's essentially what they mean. But there is some detailed guidance that we have around, I think for cost, there's some guidance around percentage over budget that constitutes red, amber, green.
Yeah, just so that we can all understand what, because the summaries are really good, dashboards are really good. But, tend you look, because you can look at a lot of information very quickly, but of course, as soon as your eye is drawn to a particular risk, you want to know, well, what does that risk really, really mean? What am I saying? Do I need to do more or find out some more? So just so we know what the tripwires are. Or
I'll certainly get you that. I can't commit that every project manager faithfully follows all of those guidance, but it's...
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll hopefully get more consistency. I noticed that, and I'm looking to the city planning meeting report, that the Waikaukau project is labelled is labelled the future accommodation project, which is great. But I noticed that there's 2 or 3 other projects that just have their Te Reo name, and it's not actually very obvious because all the other information is summarised as what we're talking about. And so, can I ask that those projects that have a Te Reo label and have no problem with that they also have an explanation or some sort of attached information in English to just make sure that people understand exactly what that project is who don't speak Te Reo or aren't very familiar with the project.
Yes, we can look to do that.
Okay. And lastly, you explained the situation where the main, we call it stage gate or decision point, that normally elected members are brought to have a decision is at the end of the business case. And so business cases are generally brought to elected members. And so, that's where our point of being informed and then making a decision to go or not go, having all the detailed planning done and the budgets and that brought together in the business case. And then it tends to just go through to completion. Is it possible, though, if, for example, for significantly large projects where the commitment to go forward may involve a large amount of money or whatever, that elected members could choose to add another stage gate? So, for example, at the end of the planning phase before implementation, is that possible, if we wish to do that?
I would think it's possible. My understanding is that the terms of references talk about significant project business cases, but then other projects and decisions at request of committee or as the CEO sees the need to escalate.
Okay.
So, yes.
Yeah, just make sure that we know that we are allowed to.
Yeah, I might just cut it off there because actually, I know this was tagged onto the end, but then we have more questions about the actual quarterly report. Under Councillor Abdurrahman is the significant projects report, so committee this week. So perhaps that's a few more in-depth questions there. Thank you. Councillor is it Arubari? Arubari, thank you.
It might be my right.
No, you're absolutely fine. Thank you. And I'm so sorry if you've already mentioned this, but I just wanted to, I guess, ask about the data that's provided around the significant projects report for elected officials. What kind of data is provided in terms of those reports? Are they data that's separate for each report itself, or is it a collective report that we get in terms of data on each significant project, on how it's going, what it's costing, any risks, things like that? and what level of data is provided?
So all our projects report through a central project reporting tool that we use. It collects information, cost registers, risk registers, issues. The reporting is pulled from that central repository for this report. In terms of data, the core data in there is around the status of the project and also around the financial forecast, the budget and the financial forecast. The other commentary there is summarised commentary from those other dimensions of project performance around risk, issue, overall commentary, and the milestones, which is informed by the schedule of the project. But they're all from a central reporting system that we use, and we draw information out of that.
Okay. Thank you so much. Also, I can't even read my writing now. I was just wondering about a register of lessons learned from our significant projects. Is there such a thing available at the moment for past significant projects that we are utilising to improve our way of managing them, or are we able to have one?
Yes, this is something, lessons learned is an area that we're looking to improve as an organisation. Like I said, the central repository tool, project reporting tool we have as lessons learned registers for each of our individual projects.
Perfect.
I think there's certainly improvements we can make around how we systematically capture those lessons and make sure they're used for future projects. It's something I'm personally actively, I'm interested in making sure we pursue.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor McNulty.
Good. I was just looking at some things in urban development. I know Liam's not in the room, nor Sean, so these may have to come back to. There were a few resource consent KPIs that were off target, but it seems to be that these are all basically admin reporting errors than service level reflections. So I was just really wanting to clarify that was the case. If we have anyone that can.
Kia ora, I'm Joss Anton. I do the planning and reporting part for the quarterly report. Yeah, there was one resource consent which was off track, and it was due to an admin error. What happened was there was actually, the data for that KPI is very small, and one was included when it shouldn't have been, and they realised after the fact. So it literally was an admin error, and it won't happen again.
Yeah, and so from the service, like from the developer builder world, these aren't errors in the service that's being provided. It's just an collation of reporting.
It was just a collation, yeah.
And then the other one was Te Kāinga in Q1. It was on 90% occupancy under the 96% target. But I think from site visits we've been to now, we're assured that that's turned around. So I'm wondering if you have a current occupancy of where Te Kai is sitting?
I don't, but we can get that for you.
It is.
Here we go, Vita.
It's sitting at 94 at the moment.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Compton.
Thank you, Chair. I had two questions. One was around the stage gates, but I believe we'll pick that up at City Strategy. My other question is around rates debtors. I see that there's 12.5 million overdue and unsecured rates debtors. I was just curious about what percentage of ratepayers does this represent?
We'll have to get the actual percentage off you. I want to say a number off the top of my head, but I don't want to mislead you, so we will find out and come back to you.
Okay. Councillor Rogers.
Yeah, mine was just a question of clarification on the new workplace accommodation. In the earlier slide you presented, the year-to-date budget was sitting at 111%. The total project forecast was 9% below budget. So I was just wondering if there was some clarification there about what's happening this year versus the full length of the project.
Sorry, what report are you referring to?
So in the earlier slides, there was a screenshot of significant projects, and that showed year-to-date actuals versus year-to-date budgets, which showed a variance of 860,000 plus a bit. But then in the actual significant projects report that we're getting this week, it shows that the forecast full budget is 9% below. So I'm just wondering, for the full length of the project, we are tracking on, but
Correct.
But currently for where we
For the
expect
current
to be in
financial
this
year,
year, we're
yes,
over.
correct. And we'll continue to reforecast that throughout the year as well. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's, I've got a few questions. Just around parking results, I can't help but notice the 4 parking vehicles that we've got with the cameras on them often are in the car park and not out on the streets. Are they working at the moment?
Madam Chair, I believe so, but I will confirm that for you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Oh, sorry. Did I miss Councillor Osborne? Oh, okay. All right, sorry, I didn't see your hand up. With the, just going to the project program reporting for the significant projects, I wondered, with the reporting, how are you managing portfolio type work? Because, you know, you could look at individual projects and they're on track or, you know, according to their business case. But sometimes we have broader environmental factors impacting. How do you, and there could be several projects together, how are you managing those and how are you managing those, more importantly, for reporting to the governance?
Yeah. So at the moment, our project reporting is project reporting. It's not a portfolio report. It doesn't seek to be. We do have, I think, 3 programs of work. So our bike network program, our HUP2 program, and our Tanako program. And so the interactions between projects and how they fit together are managed within those programs and reported as programs. But we don't currently have that sort of portfolio level reporting. If you getting those insights around how we're tracking towards our strategic outcomes and how our investments are contributing to those is probably best through the quarterly report, is how we make those observations around the achievement of strategy and the connection of our investments towards those. But at the moment, it's project reporting that we do for significant projects. It's an area that we could look to improve as we build maturity around portfolios.
Thank you. And just coming back to the quarterly performance report, just looking at the finances, and it's something I couldn't see, are there any, from an officer perspective, what emerging risks, financial risks, do you see or maybe aware of that we should be conscious about? And I ask that question because this report's really important as we go into our 25-26 annual planning, our triennial planning, and just wonder if this is something broader that you can comment on.
For me, it's really tracking the capital program and making sure that we're on track throughout the year. You'll see that we're currently, as at Q1, at 71%, making sure that throughout the year we're reforecasting and understanding where we're underspending and why is probably the most important thing. And then, making sure that we're reflecting that in our forecasting.
Okay.
I'd probably add to that in 2 separate, 2 other components, and this is managing our balance sheet. And the first is around our debtors and ensuring that we are continuing to monitor and collect those. It is a very challenging environment that we're operating in, so we're monitoring that quite closely and ensuring that we're mitigating our risk there. The second one is going to be around the balance sheet and the debt that transfers for the water to the water services entity or to Te Aki Wai, because that's going to be quite critical in terms of our own covenants going forward and what that looks like. So those are kind of sitting outside of, but really high risks that we do need to manage well.
And my next question, Baz, you commented about how you've got a program of improvement for the quarterly reporting. Are you able to provide us a high level of what things you're working on, so that we've got an idea and not ask questions about can we see some, a particular improvement?
we can put that in the Q&As. We can provide that and circulate that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And is one of those improvement items potentially around reporting on strategy? Because I look at the economic well-being strategy and it's great, it's green, but we know the economic environment of our city is not so green looking. So is that something you're going to look at addressing? I understand we will have to reset our KPIs, and you are reporting on the current KPIs as set. But is there some way that we could have some broader context when we are reporting on such items, when we know we do a sense check out in the community?
Yeah, we can definitely look at that, and I get your point, and the reality is while we'll have an influence on the economy with some of the services we provide, obviously the overall impact we can have is not as large as you think. So we can provide some context going forward for sure.
Thank you, Councillor Osborne. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Just a real quick question regarding slide 18. Which is the headline non-financial performance. And this could be a question that would be better to be answered next week when the paper comes up. But just wondering if you could give us a little bit of a heads up why sustainability KPIs are only 62% achieved and what falls into that 38% bracket.
When Baz did the introduction, he explained that we cut our KPIs. We look at them from different perspectives. So the sustainability KPIs that are represented there, they relate to the reader KPIs, which have a data lag. They're expected to be on target going forward. So that's part of that one. And the responsiveness one relates to the Wellington Water. So each of those KPIs have got a dimension attached to them. So that's shown in the report. Yep.
Sorry, the reader?
Oh, sorry, the Wellington Regional Economic Development Agency. Yep. Yeah, Wellington NZ. Sorry. Yep. Yeah, pardon me. Yep. So they have 3 KPIs that they didn't meet target, so they relate to the sustainability. So we're looking at financial sustainability in that context.
Are there any other questions? I thought there might be a few more around the numbers, but anyway, I know you've still got to look through it. Can I, given that we've had this report out and we've had this briefing today, if you have questions, and I know you've got, normally the timeline is Monday afternoon, but for this particular paper, if you have got any, I think it would be appreciated by the officers if you get those through by the end of the week, because then next week is a pretty full-on week. So yes, thank you. Sorry. Oh, sorry, Councillor. Councillor Foon is online, and you have a question, Councillor Foon.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Appreciate coming in a bit later there. I just wanted to go back to Officer Reeves' statement around the balance sheet and the transfer of the water assets and how we manage that. I guess I just wanted to understand, because that's not something we have oversight of, but just how will the reporting to us of the status of that come to council, just so that we're aware of where that risk sits?
Yeah, that's a great question. At this stage, the decisions are still yet to be made and working through that with Te Ake Wai. When those decisions are made, I think it would be entirely appropriate for us to work through a process to ensure that there's clear transparency around what what the transfer looks like. I will work with whoever the representative is on the relevant committee to determine what the best way forward is for that.
Great. Thanks, Andrea.
Okay, so I think that's the end of the questions. As I said, if you've got any questions, get them in by the end of this week, if possible, on this particular paper. Thank you.